Hello everyone and welcome back to another Wizard101 video. Last night I got a comment from one Alex Charney, I believe. Let me check that to make sure that's correct. Yep, Alex Charney asking, hey, great work lately, man. Not sure if you've done a video on this recently, but I think it would be cool if you did a video on how long it takes a wizard to get to level 140. So, I went and I calculated this. Now, this isn't exactly how long it takes to get to 140. This is how long it approximately would take to get to 140 and how long it took me to get to 140. So, what I did was I went to my Balance Let's Play series, which if you didn't know, I have on my channel 110 or so episodes long, and I said, all right, let's calculate all the times. So, I calculated all the times. For the later worlds, when I quested with my fire, I added about a few hours, about 50%, because I feel like it would be about 50% longer without my fire. So I'm going to go over it. I calculated not only the times, but the total arc times. And the arc times, by the way, disclude the side worlds, but I did write down the side worlds. I didn't calculate dark more because that's completely up to chance. It depends on if you get the gear or not. So, starting off is Wizard City. Now, Wizard City, obviously I hold the speedrun record for, so you can do it in an hour. It is possible to do it in an hour, but I've never really done it in an hour. My Storm did it, I believe, in an hour and a half, and my Balance did it in 2. So that is about how long it takes, an hour and a half to 2 hours to do it for the average person. But if you can include Colossus Boulevard and Triton Underwater, that'll probably add an extra hour or 2 to your time, which makes it about 4 hours long, which is decently long for a first world, actually. So keep in mind, if you finish, if you finish this world about an hour and a half, you're well on track. That's about how long it usually takes. Obviously, don't take everything I'm saying as pure fact. If it's taking you longer to beat it, you're not bad at the game or anything. It just means you're either having worse luck. I almost just said badder luck. That's just not grammatically correct, or something along those lines. The next on our list is Crocotopia, which has taken me 3 hours both times to beat it. I believe that is just the average length of the world is 3 hours. It takes, the longest area is the pyramid, is the Crocosphinx, without a doubt. That's probably over half of it, probably around 2 hours of it. While this is about 30 minutes or so, and over here is about 30 minutes or so. Definitely not the hardest world to beat. But do keep in mind, I do side quests sometimes in videos, so it could be a bit more, a bit less, depending on what you do. Keep that in mind for all of these. Obviously, when I'm questing, I don't quest just linearly. I also do some side quests as well, stuff like that. You know, I go get gear and stuff. That takes a little bit longer to do. Next is Marleybone, which I did in 2.5 hours. I believe... I didn't look at my Storms Let's Play series, but I'm pretty sure I did it in about 2.5 hours in both. My Storms might be about 2 hours instead. But realistically, Marleybone is an incredibly short world. It's actually probably the shortest world in Arc 1. Unless Wizard City is the shortest, unless you do Colossus Boulevard, and then I would believe Marleybone is the shortest. Marleybone is just generally easy to get through, and generally will take you about that amount of time. So next, I actually calculated Wisteria. I'm actually not going to go there. I'm just going to gloss over it. It takes about 1 hour flat to complete Wisteria. Not that difficult at all. Next is Mushu. Mushu took me about 3 hours flat to beat on my Balance. Also keep in mind, if you don't have enchants, 1, that could slow down your time significantly, and 2, my Balance was decently powerful, I'd say. But if you're a Storm, you'd probably go a bit faster than this. If you're a Fire, you'd go a bit faster than this. But if you're something like a Myth, you might go a bit slower. If you're a Life or an Ice, you'll go a bit slower. So it's just kind of wherever you fit along those lines. The final world in Arc 1 here is Dragonspire. Now, Dragonspire obviously is a bit longer than the other worlds, and that's because it's the final world of Arc 1. When calculating my Let's Play series video, it took me 5 hours flat to beat it. And keep in mind, I didn't receive any help from my fire. I think I beat Malastare with one of my other wizards, but I did not receive any help from my fire throughout this world. So I would give it about 5 to 5.5 hours completion time. Not that difficult. Honestly, one of the easier worlds. Easier arc finale worlds. It's not that bad. Around that time to beat it. Before I continue real quick, I'm going to blow my nose and then I'll unpause. Alright, I'm back. Blew my nose and we're continuing on. Next on our list, I calculated Grizzlheim and Wintertusk. Now, obviously, these are side worlds again. They won't... Oh! Sorry. I completely forgot something. Roll it back, roll it back. I calculated the Arc 1 total. I almost forgot to say that. The Arc 1 total, not including Wisteria, because I didn't include the side worlds, is 15.5 hours. I'd honestly say that is probably about the average time it takes to complete it. I would say, realistically, you can get there in about that time. If I had to hazard a guess of a range, I'd say that is on the faster side. The fastest would probably be a bit shorter than that, 1 or 2 hours. You probably can't get that much lower than that. But longer could go all the way up to like probably about 24 hours of questing time, depending on how fast you're questing. But let's move on now. Next is Grizzlheim, which I included as a side world. I separated it into 2 categories. I separated it into Grizzlheim, which took me about 4 hours to do. Mainly, that is the 1 hour, longer than an hour of Ravenscar that it took me. Ravenscar is just really painful. It's basically Wintertusk Light. And then next is actually Wintertusk itself, which I did do with my fire, so it only took me about 5 hours, but I added some length to that. I'd imagine if you're soloing, it could take around 10 hours. If you're duoing or less, it could take 8 hours or less. Maybe about 6 to 8 hours. Keep in mind, Wintertusk is difficult. Next is Celestia. Now, Celestia is where things start getting a bit longer. So far, the longest world we've had is Wintertusk. Celestia is a bit shorter than Wintertusk, but it's still a little bit long. So keep in mind for these next few, I took my Balance Let's Play series and added about how long it would take to do it solo, because I did do it with my fire. I added about 50% to each because I feel like that's about how much slower it would have been. So Celestia I did all solo except for the very last dungeon. So I would say it would have taken me about 6.5 hours to beat Celestia that way. Otherwise, it took me, I believe, 6 hours to beat it solo. Again, Celestia, keep in mind, actually, it's very important to keep in mind that I always do Wintertusk first. So if you don't do Wintertusk first and you enter Celestia at level 44, it's very likely your time will be closer to 10 hours, actually, because the beginning of the game is a lot more difficult in Celestia. But when you're level 60 already, 56 to 60, like I was, it's significantly easier and significantly faster. I breezed through the game compared to what it is now. So keep that in mind, because your time could be significantly longer than mine. Next is Zephyria, which took me 8 hours to do. I love Zephyria. It's one of my favorite worlds, but the ending is a bit long. Specifically, once you get to Drum Jungle and Elephant Graveyard, those are some long quests and some pretty painful quests. Drum Jungle specifically is not a good street. I would say it'll take about 8 hours for you to do. It took me about 6.5. But, again, that was with my fire questing me through some of it. I'm pretty sure I soloed through most of it. I don't think... My fire didn't come in until Avalon. I did solo through most of it. So, keep in mind, somewhere between 6 to 8 hours to do that. Next is Avalon, which is where things start getting a bit longer. I have done this world in one day, with me and a friend. But, that'll be for later. My Let's Play took me about 8 hours to do. I would say it takes probably about closer to 10 hours without my fire. Maybe even 11 to 13, somewhere in there. But with me and my friend questing, I started at the very beginning. I started in the end of Zephyria, and we finished Avalon in one day. It took probably about 10 hours to beat. So keep in mind, you can beat it in about 10 hours. It's not the most difficult thing in the world, and it's not completely infeasible. You can beat Avalon in 10 hours. Next is Azteca, and this is where things start getting longer. I have never loaded Azteca on this computer, so you know, we're just gonna chill in Avalon again. Azteca, I believe it took me 10 hours to complete on my Let's Play series, but again, that's with my fire. I would estimate that's closer to 13 to 15 solo, but also keep in mind, with the new crit update and the health reduction, Azteca is not nearly as bad as it used to be. I would estimate that Azteca, you could probably beat... Calvin and I have beat most of it in one day. I would say we've beaten from Salt Meadow Swamp to the end of the world in one day, which is almost the entire thing. The only thing that's not is Mangrove Marsh and the 3 points over here. I would say it took us about 12 hours, but obviously if you include those first two streets, it's probably closer to 14. I would argue that it's somewhere in there nowadays, is probably around 15 hours. Next, we're going to Chrysalis, and obviously, this is going to be painful. You all know it's going to be painful. Chrysalis is a bad world. Chrysalis took me 15 hours to beat on my Let's Play series. Fun fact as well, Chrysalis makes up over a quarter of my Let's Play series episodes. Just Chrysalis alone. But I would argue that without my fire, it probably would have taken a lot longer. It would have taken quite a few more episodes. So, that's why I gave it the estimated 20 hours rather than the 15. I would say 20 to 25, actually, probably even longer than that. You know what, I'm even going to bump that up to 25. It's probably going to take you about 25 hours to beat Chrysalis, without a doubt. With other people, it'll be easier, but it's still going to be painful. But that's the end of Arc 2. I've rounded up all of the hours and kind of figured it out. And it'll take about 65 hours to beat Arc 2, which is almost... that's actually like 5 times more than Arc 1. Not really that surprising. It's actually kind of what I expected. Next on our list is Polaris, which... Oh, there's no teleporter in here. There's no teleporter in here, what? Next on our list is Polaris, which took me, I mean, currently, I obviously haven't beaten it in my Let's Play series. Take all of these worlds now with my, these are all estimations besides Caramel. Polaris, I would say takes about 7 hours to beat. 5 to 7 hours, definitely a shorter world, a lot easier of a world, and you can definitely get through it a lot faster. Now, next is Mirage, which, let me tell you, Mirage is definitely not faster than Polaris. Mirage, I would estimate, takes about 13 to 15 hours to complete, rather than the 7 of Polaris. About double the length. It is a longer world, a bit more painful of a world, and towards the end, there are some difficult fights. So I would say that it does take quite a while to beat. And finally, for Arc 3 is Imperia, which I have never loaded. Okay, oh, there we go. There we go, now I've loaded it. Imperia, I didn't keep track of how long it took me to beat, but I've obviously beat it in the past, and I can estimate. I would say it takes an estimated about 20 hours to beat Imperia, a bit shorter than Chrysalis, but longer than any other world, definitely. Imperia is long, it is painful. You can look just by the map. There's like double the locations of most other worlds. It is a painful world, but keep in mind, you can get it done. Just try to stick with people and find some people to do it with. So, now that we've done all of Arc 3, that estimated total is around 40 hours, which is shorter than Arc 2, which isn't very surprising, but still much longer than Arc 1, which again isn't really surprising. And finally on our list is Caramel. It's a shame that really there's no other worlds to rank after this for Arc 4, but maybe I'll add an updated thing. Maybe I'll update it once Arc 4 is done. But here we are in Caramel, and I can tell you without a doubt, it took me 10 hours to beat. Almost 10 hours on the dot, actually, to beat. Definitely, I love that length. I love about 10 hours of world length. I feel like it's a good length for a world. It's not too short like possibly Marleybone is, and it's not too long like Chrysalis is. Now, do keep in mind that that the length is also scaled with levels. So Caramel takes 10 hours at 140, right? But something like Dragonspire takes 5 hours at level 30. It depends on the levels. At a lower level like that, it makes sense the world is shorter than at a higher level like this. Because if a world was only 5 hours long at level 140, everyone would be like, what? Why is it so short? You know? So that's why I would say Arc 4, obviously I can't really take a total to it. It's about 10 hours as of right now. I think that 10 hours is exactly what the average length for Caramel is. I've never looked up what other people think, but that's how long it took me to do it. So Balanced Fire Duo, 10 hours. Solo, probably closer to 12 to 14. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, if you found this useful, please let me know. Drop a like, hit the sub button. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. See you in the next video. Have a fantastic day.